question for you. Did you watch Incredibles 2?
I did. The music is really similar to the first one, but
Yeah.
like, did you listen to like the themes for the heroes?
No, I didn't.
Those are really interesting. There's I think Elastigirls is the best, but there's like the original version, and then they have an a cappella version for each one.
Really?
Yeah, and the group that does it has a name. It's called Docapella, which I like assume stands for Disney Acapella. But those are all super amazing.
Yeah.
And it really, I think, captures the time, which is like a really important aspect of a lot of music.
Whoa! Is that Soulman's podcast? I think it is. Let's go!
What's the name of the podcast again? Malnourished Musicians! Let's do it! So, tell people your name, first of all.
My name is Alex.
Alex.
I play jazz piano, some guitar, and ukulele.
Yeah?
I've never really tried to release music, but it is like a pretty active hobby of mine.
What's your favorite instrument? That you like to play?
I play the most piano for sure.
Yeah. Do you have a sound that you like better? What's your favorite
like the sound of an
instrument?
instrument? Saxophone.
Saxophone?
Pretty, yeah. I think that wins by a landslide, actually. I mean, listening to like any of Coltrane's recordings, like a big example is Giant Steps, which if you heard, just the chords of that don't even make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it is called Giant Steps for a reason.
Yeah.
That entire album is just brilliant.
So what interests you more? Does harmony or melody interest you more? Because you like the sound of the saxophone.
Yeah.
Which is melody. But you also are really into chords.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a preference?
Harmony is more interesting musically. Melody is just nicer to listen to.
Yeah.
I mean, there is like just the sort of pure enjoyment of music, I think, comes more from melody than harmony.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Because when I see you jamming on the piano, I know you really like to. You like to do both. Like you find it, both of them seem interesting to you because you're always doing the interesting chords.
It's hard to do both at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, like they both definitely have a place. You can start producing a song from like any angle you want. Not even just from chords or a melody. Like you can start off of just a set of lyrics.
Yeah.
If you have an idea of what like it needs to sound.
So I wanted to ask you about that. You said you don't really write lyrics often, but you do enjoy it?
Yeah, it is fun. I write a lot, but like the stuff I write is like prose, poetry, things like that. And that's naturally evolved into like lyrics, but I don't do it too often.
So you don't lay down an instrumental and then write over it? You just kind of write poetry?
Yeah, I mean, that's totally separate from my music.
Yeah. You ever try singing? I know, I've seen you sing on Instagram and stuff.
Yeah, I've sung before. I'm trying to get better at singing because, like, for a lot of people, they just sing, you know, like for fun. Like you hear a song on the radio and you're just like, woo.
Yeah.
But singing does have its place as its own musical instrument. So I'm trying to learn it sort of more, like, with a methodology behind it, not just let's sing for fun.
Yeah.
Right.
So I know you like Coltrane. You like Bill Evans. What else do you listen to?
Yeah. I mean, I think we listened to similar music. You played Vampire Weekend, Cage the Elephant on the Car. I'm sure you've heard of the Arctic Monkeys.
Yeah, for sure.
Those sort of form their own.
Yeah.
Yeah. People that are into those, like I can kind of guess what else they're into, like San Cisco.
Yeah.
I know you know of Starfucker.
Starfucker's sick.
A really interesting thing about Arctic Monkeys and Vampire Weekend, their like initials are just mirrored, like vertically of each other. So AM, if you flipped it along the bottom, you would get VW.
Yeah.
Like missing the bar. But
Did you just notice that, or did you?
No, I've seen somebody like wearing a T-shirt with that, like the monkeys at the top, and then Vampire Weekend at the bottom. And I was like, that is such a clever design.
But that's just music you listen to just for enjoyment, because you don't analyze. I don't.
No,
maybe-
I don't usually think about the music that I listen to like too much.
Yeah.
When I want to think about it, it's deliberate. It's not. It doesn't just happen.
Because you were talking about transcribing Bill Evans, so you obviously thought about it.
Right. Bill Evans is like, oh man, there's a lot to say about Bill Evans.
Yeah.
If you try to transcribe, like, the thing I was doing was Autumn Leaves,
Mhm.
and I never got around to finishing it, not because like, just listening to the notes and like writing down what's happening is like too hard.
Mhm.
Just I was always second guessing myself, like over, does this actually make any sense? Because this isn't like,
Yeah.
this isn't a series of chords I've ever seen.
Yeah.
This is a mess.
So, do you analyze it when you feel like it's complicated because it's a challenge?
Right. Yeah. And I wanted like, because Bill Evans, I mean, he's the master.
Mhm.
So if I listen to something that like I don't understand, the goal of transcribing is just to understand it, I guess.
Mm.
Which I guess I didn't really succeed at in that moment. But
Yeah, but
you do get like a little bit into their head.
yeah.
It's more than just looking at, like, if I had the sheet music for Autumn Leaves, which I haven't found,
Mhm.
it wouldn't be like the same as going through the process of like, what were they thinking when they like
Yeah.
constructed this? Yeah.
So you're talking about the direct transcription. You're not talking about like chords, like the chord sheet, right? Like,
Right. Like the cheat sheet.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's called. Or no, the fake book.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it.
You want to see like the actual notes, note for note.
Sure. Yeah. And you'll notice like across, like, I guess the entire body of work of certain jazz artists,
Mhm.
that's like on piano is like the only instrument that I like can read well.
Yeah.
You can sort of notice their personalities, because jazz is sort of the genre where you're like allowed to put patterns like in threes, or like add ornamentation in bizarre places.
Mhm.
And you will notice that like when you transcribe, say, like Bill Evans versus Oscar Peterson, or I'm thinking of somebody, just say Herbie Hancock.
Yeah.
Their personality is sort of reflected in their sheet music.
Hmm. So who are your favorite of those guys? Just obviously Bill Evans, John Coltrane.
Right.
Are those your main guys?
I mean, I went to a Herbie Hancock concert
Yeah, how was
a while
that?
back. That was it was more like I wasn't paying attention to the music. I was sort of paying attention to the feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Kamasi Washington came on stage, he gave like a sort of short speech about like how we're all like one, and
Yeah.
like he doesn't see color or things like that.
He's dressing as like crazy.
Right. Which I know it sounds new agey to talk about now, but definitely in the moment I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Like, I agree with you, Kamasi.
So it's more of a feeling.
Let's have
thing.
it. Hmm.
Nice.
But I do like both of those artists. They're very good. Any of the guys who were formerly in or currently in Snarky Puppy, they're clever.
Those guys are awesome. You ever listen to what's their name? Bad Bad Not Good. You know who that is?
No.
I'll have to show you them later.
Yeah.
Wait, you didn't take lessons, huh? Or did you?
I started when I was like 5. Right. I took piano lessons.
Was it a mandatory thing?
No.
You wanted
it was
to?
just I should learn an instrument.
Yeah.
But like 2 years in, I just sort of got bored of lessons, and then recently got back into playing.
So you just play whatever comes to mind, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I look up, like, I know it, like, only the music theory that comes with what I play.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like a pretty strong believer of like the idea that music theory is descriptive, not prescriptive.
What do you mean?
So you create the music and the theory comes. You don't create music based on the theory.
Okay. So
or like you can do that obviously, but
yeah.
like you don't need to like understand why music sounds good to make good sounding music.
Yeah. So your process for writing a song, is it you hear something that sparks something, you feel a certain way, or you just sit down, you just shit out whatever you want to shit out?
Recently it's been recently literally like I'm just like playing the same thing over and over again on a piano that like I just like the way it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And then I either mess up or like I have this idea to combine two things I had before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a new thing I come up with. And sometimes that produces a new song. Sometimes it just is a phrase, but it's useful to sort of add to your like repertoire.
So, do you ever, you feel a certain way, you're in a certain point of your life and that sparks something, or it's more just like, I just want to see what happens?
That's happened before. It's not really like anything that's happened recently, but yeah, like I've written about stuff that's happened.
Yeah. What'd you grow up listening to? What'd your parents play for you?
Do
you remember anything?
It's bizarre because you know Beethoven's Fifth Symphony?
Mm-hmm.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da, right?
Yeah.
Like they had a recording of some guitar artist's rendition of that, and I grew up thinking Beethoven's Fifth Symphony was a guitar song by this one dude.
That's so funny.
I'm not sure if he added lyrics, but it was definitely like, it was enough of a genre switch where it being classical music just didn't register with me. So every time I hear his symphony now, I think, like this is such like a, what do you call it? This is like a shift in timing. Like I assumed this song was very modern.
Oh,
and it was actually written, just centuries ago.
Did that mess you up when you realized?
Totally. That's
so funny.
And so I guess they played classical music, but it wasn't.
How'd they even come across that?
Right. It wasn't like that.
Yeah. So did they only play classical music then for you?
So most of my early music taste was like sort of shaped by my friends, not my parents. They didn't really play much at all. It was just when we were on the car. What'd
your friends play?
My friends were mostly into pop. I had a friend named Nate who would always like who would like find these like popular songs before they were popular.
Yeah.
I think he takes a lot of pride in that actually.
Sounds like him. Even I don't know him.
Yeah. I mean, who does, right? Who knows Nate Carl?
Who knows the person that's in the room laughing at us?
But yeah.
So it doesn't really shape your music taste now, I'm assuming then.
Yeah. I mean, it was all like pop music.
Yeah.
That was just what I grew up listening to. I sort of shifted to electronic when that was like, I started playing games a lot when I was like maybe like 12 years old. Just the whole like Monster Cat label.
Oh yeah.
I really liked them.
Hell yeah. Deadmau5?
I didn't really listen to Deadmau5. I was just into,
How often do you write songs? Do you not? Yeah, that's how often do you write songs?
It's not terribly often these days, but I probably have a new one like every month or so.
Because you're busy with school and stuff, huh?
Right, yeah.
So I was going to say, do you ever experience a writer's block, or is it kind of just, you just do it whenever and then next time you want to do something?
I can imagine you experience that like if you have a schedule.
Very bad.
Or you're really like needing to get a song out.
Definitely. Yeah.
But I've never written music as like this needs to be out, or this like is building towards a legitimate career. It's always just been, this is a way I can express myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's not,
So you never, do you think
so
you'd
I'm
always
sure,
want this?
I'm sure like I've had moments where it's like, I wish I could make something, but it's never been an urgent thing.
Well, you have different ways of getting it out, huh? With your, all your other things you like to do. I mean.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's like, and Nate, I'm assuming it's like, this is the only thing we have. So when we get writer's block, it's frustrating. But for you, you can make
I can write.
Yeah.
I can,
Yeah. Okay, so you went to the Herbie Hancock show. What other shows have you been to?
Let me think. I haven't been to a lot of concerts recently. I was trying to go to Chicano Batman.
Oh, yeah. New Year's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting. I saw Portugal the Man.
No way.
Somewhat recently, yeah.
How was that?
I mean, I just really love all their stuff. That's another one of those bands that I would associate with somebody who's like, yeah. It's just sort of a group of bands that you kind of like understand, or like on Tinder, you'll see these bands like grouped together and people's like Spotify's. Yeah. Like you understand they just have similar music tastes.
Is there any kind of these like indie bands that you don't like?
I don't think I like would single one out as like, this is definitely bad.
Not like bad, but you just don't. You don't feel like everyone's like. For me, it's like Arcade Fire. Like,
I've never liked Arcade Fire.
yeah. Like, I don't have anything against it. Just everyone else likes it. I'm just kind of
that would. Yeah, I understand that one. I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
It took me a while to get into like Neutral Milk Hotel.
I don't know who that is. Actually.
Really, there's this really famous album by them called like in the Airplane Over the Sea.
Neutral Milk Hotel.
Right. That's what I would associate with this whole group.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, little known fact about that album, it's actually based on like one of the band members' obsessions with Anne Frank. Which is really bizarre. He's just really into her.
So is that the focus of the album?
Yeah, but it's like a little bit buried in the lyrics, but that's definitely like visible. Even if you just go on like Genius, like what people have written about it, it's like,
So what does he say about it? Like what is just his fascination with the whole?
Yeah, like he's just
Holocaust?
really into the like the idea of just her.
Yeah,
which
like
is
how she dealt with the Holocaust.
to a pretty creepy extent. Like mind you, it's not normal, but
What?
it is interesting. Yeah.
Have you ever wanted to perform anywhere?
I have performed at like talent shows.
How'd that go?
It went pretty well. I won second place
Really?
at like our recent like little program I'm in college. We do our yearly
so it's
talent
recently.
shows. Yeah.
Nice.
That was what you probably saw on my Instagram story. Was me and my friend Lily, we played this song by Dodie Clark called An Awkward Duet. And she played the ukulele, I just sang.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I also played guitar during the same show, just as a solo thing.
You still playing guitar? Because I know you
Yeah,
picked it up for a little bit.
it's something that I play intermittently. I really can't say that I know how to play the guitar. I know how to play songs on it. I don't understand how to actually play it.
Yeah.
Like I don't know where notes are. On a piano, everything's laid out in front of you. Yeah, on a guitar, it's sort of buried where like pitches are relative to each other. You just
Yeah.
sort of understand that over time.
The strings, you got to figure out how to build from the strings and stuff.
Right. Actually, one of the songs I learned for the talent show was this thing called Shipwrecked. There was this, have you heard of A Series of Unfortunate Events?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that book series. So their audiobook editions each have a song written by this band called the Gothic Archies.
Okay.
And they literally wrote a song for each book, and they were featured in the audiobooks. The one for the last book, the end, was this song called Shipwrecked, which is like, I think from Count Olaf's perspective. It's like a really just creepy song because it's about like, I think the lyrics go, there's nothing like I'd rather do than be cast away on a ship, like, or on an island with you. Shipwrecked with you. Like, there's nothing I'd rather, like, there's nowhere I'd rather be. And that's why I decapitated the crew. Like, it's just a bunch of weird stuff.
That's kind of sick.
Yeah, it's really wild. There's one bit where it's like, how could I know there's no island nearby? If I don't eat something soon, I'll just die. Right? What should we use for bait? Lend me a hand. I'll sew it back on when we get to land. And like, yeah, the whole song is just him, like, I think the idea is he's flirting with the oldest Baudelaire, who's like obviously like a third his age.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Which
just
makes it even better.
Yeah, brilliant.
So you were singing that over ukulele?
No, over the guitar, and I was just, I got everybody to kind of sing like the hook with me, which is like, I gave them the story of the song. It was like funny, and I was like, hey, like, you guys can sing this one part with me, which goes shipwrecked with you, right? And so yeah, I just had the whole room like singing this just freaking creepy song. I didn't win anything, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think it was worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you get nervous doing stuff like that? Or do you feel like you're in control when you...
Then I felt in control. I can imagine, like, I've been nervous before in front of crowds.
Yeah.
I do speech, like I'm in front of crowds all the time. It's just sort of like, especially when I have something prepared, I can sort of think, well, I know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm either going to say these words, play these notes. I've done this before. I just have to do this in front of these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you find that song? Were you listening to the audiobook?
I was listening to the audiobook. I went through the last... So I have a friend who read the series as well, but she only went through books 1 through 12. So she didn't have the 13th one. And I had the 13th one and I lent it to her, but we ended up just listening to the audiobook together.
Yeah.
Because I had Audible. So that's how I found out about the song.
And you heard the
It
song,
would just
yeah.
play like throughout every chapter, and we were just like, what is going on with these lyrics? This song is absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
And yeah, I eventually picked it up and learned it.
That's hilarious. I don't know how to phrase this. You kind of find things, I feel like you find things in an organic way where you're just like, oh, what the fuck is this? And then you go after it.
Uh-huh.
Like when you were talking about, I know you told me you were at a subway. You were at a subway, right? Somewhere, and there's a piano.
Right.
We're playing piano with like a homeless person or something. Can you tell me that story again? Do you remember what I'm talking about? You were teaching him jazz chords, as he was teaching you jazz, like a scale, like a blues scale or something.
Oh yeah. I'm not actually sure if he's still homeless.
Was he homeless at the time?
I'm almost certain he was homeless at the time. I have him on Instagram actually. He
nice.
he plays guitar. He's pretty neat. But yeah, he's a blues guitarist, so he knows every blues scale basically. He was playing just the scale over and over again on the piano, and it was quick. There wasn't a lot of like musicality to it, but it was like impressive what he was managing. And like it looked like he was basically inviting people over to play with him. So yeah, I sat down and taught him what I knew, and he taught me the blues scale, which is just sweet. We have a keyboard right here.
It's
right. It's basically like the blues scale in C, or you could say the origin of it is A, is just the C pentatonic scale plus this passing tone in between 2 and 3. Right. And he was just playing this over and over again.
Oh, he was playing it.
Right. That's what he taught me.
Yeah.
And then like obviously you can just transpose that to every key you want. Yeah. And that's been really useful for me, actually. It's really similar to a song I actually already knew. Growing up, like one of the songs I played probably when I was 6 or 7 is called like Beautifully Blue Set, I think. It goes like... Right? That's something I already knew.
Yeah.
Which is super similar, except it gets rid of the 2, and it gets rid of... and it adds this passing tone between 5 and 6. Versus, right? So they sound similar, but they definitely have a different feeling in your hand when you're playing them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you?
So I've used both since then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like. Do you have any more stories like that? I'm just. Like we just find random shit out. Just
sure.
Randomly.
One of like my so a recent thing I did actually at the same piano at Union Station.
Mm-hmm.
I met this guy who was playing a pretty like I could tell he was improvising, but it was definitely really like impressive what he was pulling off. So I ended up talking to him, and he was just a bizarre character. He was like, he had some like pretty questionable, we'll say, political views. He was telling me about the Luciferian establishment and like he's like, oh, you're a physics major. Have you heard of like Royal Raymond Rife? This guy like cured cancer, and like they tried to hide it. And I'm like, okay. Right. I looked it up on Wikipedia. He's like, oh, you can't trust that.
Yeah.
Right. You know, Wikipedia is like, you know, it's just controlled by the government. I'm like, okay. But he is a good pianist. One thing he did try to convince me was that if you used Pythagorean tuning, because you know how pianos are tuned equal temperament, right? So they can never be perfect. He said that having these perfect intervals, I think 432 hertz was like his recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
There's always an argument between 432 and 440.
Yeah, exactly. Which is like, okay, well, if you only want one key to sound good,
Yeah.
sure. Right.
But he was saying that's the basis of what he was trying to tell you.
Yeah, he's apparently done that before, which is like, wow, you actually went to a piano and tuned the strings one by one.
And then everything else
sounds like a pain in the
shit.
ass. Sure.
One key sounds good and everything else sounds like shit.
Well, one key and then probably the keys around it are like all right.
Yeah.
I'm not actually entirely sure how that would affect a piano, but I've always wanted to try like alternate tuning styles.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely on a guitar, you have more leeway with that.
Yeah. Have you ever seen someone tune a piano before?
No, I actually don't even know how it's tuned.
Really? They open up the back, or I guess
like I know where the strings sit.
Yeah, and then they
like,
just get a tool, they tune in, and all this shit. I
Sure.
don't know how it works either, but it's interesting.
That sounds like really difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it sounds like really tedious to get that done.
I think you can charge like $200-$300.
Right.
It takes like half hour.
That's why I'm sure we've procrastinated on tuning our upright for just a while.
Yeah. It's pretty
Those are probably harder to tune than a grand.
Yeah, because you have to like get in there, and they're
Yeah.
vertical; they're not horizontal.
For sure.
So, yeah, I'm not entirely sure how it works, but it's really interesting. Where'd you say you met that guy again?
Yeah, at there's a public piano at Union Station.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just awesome to play there. You meet so many interesting people.
Yeah.
Another day, I met this artist who was, I don't know what he was doing. He was drawing some random stuff. While I was playing, he went up to me and he's like, "Oh, that's really awesome, man." And then he was telling me about his like deal, which was he just draws things. Okay, sure.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "I'll draw you something. What do you want?" I just met this guy.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. I tell him, "Draw a piano." Sure, right?
Yeah.
So I finish up playing and I go sit down at like the waiting area in Union. 15 minutes in, like I'm still waiting for my train. He comes up to me and he's like, "Hey man, I finished the drawing." Wow. He hands me this piece of paper which is like, not the greatest drawing of a piano, but it is done in like this really crappy, like aging marker.
Mm-hmm.
It is impressive. I actually have it if you want to take a look at it.
Yeah, definitely.
Like this super old aging marker. It looks like watercolor almost. All right, it looks like this. This is what he drew for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's kind of badass.
Right? So he showed me this, and then he, yeah, like, wow. And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." And I handed it back to him, and he's like, "No, you should keep this." It's like, okay. People have drawn a lot of things for me on like public places. Like I met some random dude on public transit the other day who was drawing like Batman faces, and he gave me his thing. But this is what he came up with, which I thought was pretty neat.
Yeah.
And then he was trying to tell me like, he's like, "Okay, what's your name?" And I said, "Yeah, my name's Alex." And he's like, "Oh, I'm Sykodelik."
He said that.
Right? He told me his name was Sykodelik. And I'm like, "Really? That's your first name,
Yeah.
Sykodelik?" Right?
He has this crazy look in his eyes. You're like,
And he's like, "Oh, no, I mean, it's not my actual name, but it's what my friends call me."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Okay."
yeah, you're
Right.
sick.
And here's the best part. He has a SoundCloud, Sykodelik.
Really?
Right? Yeah. Sykodelik has a SoundCloud, and he was trying to tell me like he's a SoundCloud rapper, and he was trying to tell me like to go follow him.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to spell out psychedelic for me, and he's like, "Oh, it's spelled kind of funny," and I'm like, "Okay,
Yeah.
right, I'm ready for this. Like, let me write this down." Right? And I shit you not, he tells me, "Okay, so it's S-I."
Okay.
This is already off to a
It's
great
already
start.
bad.
S-I-D-E.
Okay.
Wait, no. What was it? Crap. No. It was S-I-K-A, right? Psycha.
Yeah.
And then D-E-L-I-K,
That's sick.
which looks like Sykodelik.
Yeah.
Right. I just remember it looking like that. And I told this story to a friend while we were on the car, and he's like, "You know what? Let's look at his SoundCloud."
Yeah.
So
did you listen to it?
I did listen to it. It was honestly not bad. He had like good flow. I just liked the way he sounded. Yeah, definitely miles ahead of what like I honestly expected.
Really?
Yeah.
A real MC is feeling me. I'm spilling the ability. The skill in me is killing me. No healing me. The guillotine utility is killing. Breeze so chillin'. See the trilogy. Concealing adrenaline. Be appealing me is willingly a feeling keyboard melody. A villain record killing me. When will it be?
Do you have any other experiences like that where just random people? I don't know. It's just interesting to me.
Yeah, the random music people.
Yeah.
Music is something is like a language everybody speaks. If you play something nice, there's nobody in the world, no barrier that'll prevent somebody from enjoying it.
Yeah.
Right. Which is super amazing because if you know how like just we interpret harmony like on the basic level, it just being ratio of pitches, that's like a mathematical like thing that's really just like a sort of beautiful unifying thing.
Yeah.
People don't even like most people I would say don't know that like harmonies they hear are inherently mathematical.
Yeah.
But they still enjoy them, which is awesome.
And you've never taken classes on this. You just look it up because you're interested in it, right?
Yeah.
Or have you taken?
I don't think I've taken a music class in college or anything. I generally don't deliberately look up music theory, I guess. It's just sort of if I hear something odd, I want to understand it.
Yeah.
Right. Like one of the first like big like where I learned a lot was when I watched La La Land for the first time.
I never saw that, dude. I've been meaning to watch that. Is it
Right.
good?
So yeah, it is a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
Towards like somewhere in the middle, the guy plays this jazz piece, which I think is titled "Me and Sebastian's Theme." And basically what he's doing sounds super impressive, but if you actually transcribe it, which is what I did, I went through just note by note, which is a pain in the ass, but I love the movie.
Yeah.
It becomes really simple, like what he manages to pull off. Exactly. But yeah, the way it goes is just like this. No pedal. So that's the sequence in the movie, and when the guy does it, it like just looks insane. Like this guy is just it's meant, like the scene is literally meant to establish him as sort of just like this brilliant figure of jazz.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you actually break this down, which I was only able to do like after just like months later, like I was like, oh, because I would play it again because it's just fun. It just sort of became like, oh well, there's nothing terribly complicated about this, because if you play the last bit, which starts at this, if you play it slowly, it just sort of sounds like. Right, this is all in the same scale. This is all. Right, that's D harmonic minor. There's only one deviation for that, which comes in this note. Just. And then it just becomes C minor. Literally C minor. Right. And then from there, it just, it does this weird scale. I think it's called major minor. You see how the first bit is major, the second bit's minor. Or you could call it from, I guess, F's point of view, it's minor major. It's a really interesting scale, but that's literally what it is, and it just continues off of that. Which I think gives it its own like sort of jazzy feel, because you're transitioning between major and minor, but it's still this exact same scale the whole way through.
Yeah.
It just sort of sounds bizarre because you're quickly going from a major to a minor like tonality, but right. It's that way the entire way through, and then from there it just literally goes back to D harmonic minor, because it's it's the ending, right? And this is all, yeah, this is.
So you thought it was interesting that it sounded more complex than it was?
Right. It's 3 different scales and just a transition between the two, or between all of them, 3, not 2.
Yeah.
And just a lot of flourishing and like this guy just pressing a bunch of notes in weird orders. Like there's one bit that I've actually kind of stolen a few times where it's like when he gets to, because that just sounds really like, if you play that quickly, like that just sort of goes over everybody's head. It's like, what are you doing? But it has this own interesting sound. Right. But like I've incorporated that exact like kind of thing into one of my own songs.
Yeah.
So there are interesting ideas, but none of it is like too complicated to understand. He's staying in the same key. The left hand is just following suit. So.
So that's how you find inspiration, when you find interesting.
Right, but it's. I mean, since then it's gotten more complicated.
Yeah.
Like I've transcribed legitimate stuff I don't get.
Yeah.
But I guess it was an interesting journey to go from, let's start playing piano again because I love this movie, to, oh well, like the jazz in it is amazing, but it's not that complicated.
Do you know who wrote those pieces?
Justin Hurwitz, who's a great composer. He's the guy who directed the movie Damien Chazelle. They work together all the time. And yeah, I mean, all of their film scores are just great because of him.
Interesting.
Another great film composer, obviously, is Michael Giacchino.
Yeah.
Right, he didn't just do both the Incredibles movies with like the Elastigirl stretching the bad guys or something. I don't know. But he also composed for Up.
Really?
Right, which is just, I mean, he wrote probably like the saddest movie theme of all time.
Yeah.
With Married Life. Yeah.
So you're really into the movie soundtracks? I could tell. Or just.
I mean, when I
ones?
listen to a movie, when I watch a movie, I mean,
You
you
only
are
listen?
listening technically too.
Yeah.
An interesting thing I learned the other day, and like, don't laugh at me if this is obvious, but like the reason why they're called movies. You remember how they used to call them talkies?
I didn't know that.
Okay, so back in the day, that there was silent films, and then sound came along,
Mhm.
and they called the sound films talkies because people talked in them. But all of them were movies because they're motion pictures. People move,
Yeah.
so they're called movies just because there's people moving,
Yeah.
right? And it's just like, wow, I can never say that word like the same anymore.
Yeah.
It's movies. Yeah,
Oh, because
Yeah,
I'm thinking
it's-
talkies movies.
yeah. Because talkies just sounds kind of ridiculous
Yeah.
nowadays. It's like, what was this like bit of language? It's just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
But now movies sounds a little silly because it's like, yeah, duh.
Yeah.
Like people move in a video. But
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
I'm trying to think of. It sounds like a kindergartner came up with it or something.
Right?
Look at all those movies. Like.
Oh my God, movies. Right?
Yeah.
We're talkies and movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely kind of it's a perspective shift when you look at words that way.
A lot of things are like that. It's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, any last words before I blow up your room and we all die?
Oh, I didn't know that was happening.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Oh,
to tell you.
I should have some last words. Yeah. It's been real, everyone. Peace.
I'll put explosion sound effect right there.
All right.
All right, dude. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
No problem.
You're a cool guy.
Thank
and
you. You're pretty cool too.
Thanks, man. And yeah.